Welcome back to the Snap Count on the Big Play Sports Network, presented by FanDuel. I'm Trai, Essex, your host, and here's your quarterback and my quarterback, Mr. Charlie Batch. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. How's everything going?
I'm fantastic, dude.
You see me representing right here, man. As I get to the last part of training camp, I got to do this show. Yeah, man. I got to show people what it actually looks like in the dorm room. People think are surprised whenever you see a twin bed in here in the manner that you do. Even though there's a queen behind it, but that's typically the twin beds that you actually have to rock in, or at least sleep in if you don't upgrade to a queen.
I think they watch these Hard Knock shows and they see how the Cowboys live in these luxury hotels. No, man, we the Steelers. This is how we live. We in the dirt. This is the grid
behind me. This is true right here. So I had to bring this to the show.
I love it. Well, we got a lot to get to. We obviously got the game to talk to against the Jacksonville Jaguars. We got the preview for the Bucs this week. I got the trench report. I watched some film this week, Charlie. I actually graded some film like I was Russ Grimm back in the day. So you're going to see exactly what this O-line did from a grading perspective. But first, I got something to ask you, man. This past weekend, I am full-blown soccer dad, dude. My oldest, you met Amaya, had a soccer match. And let me set the stage for you. It's 2-2, right? It's at the end of the game, and my daughter plays center back, right? She's one of the fastest on the team. And a ball gets kicked to the offense, and my daughter's playing defense. They rush down the field. Did you see the video earlier? Here it goes right here. You see it. There's a through ball. Maya's down there in the white, right? It's 2-2. It's the end of the game. There's a little contact. The other girl goes down, and they called a penalty on Amaya. Award the other team a penalty kick. They score. They win the game. Now, tell me, is that a foul? Do you think that's a foul? It's a little shoulder contact. The other girl fell. But what is your opinion?
Yeah, that's a tough one there. I don't think, just looking at it right now, that was a foul. Unfortunately, sometimes whenever you have some kids who are bigger than others and they just kind of bump off, not necessarily maliciously, but it just happened because they're a bigger body. How do you see it a lot more in basketball than you do in soccer? But that right there, I think because of her size, maybe that they called her a foul there. I'm upset. And I'm sure she was upset at that particular point. You probably had to calm her down after the game. But that right there, I did not think that was a foul.
I appreciate that. You're going to get some good rave reviews from my daughter. You met her this weekend. You're going to be on her good side.
It happens. It's going to be even worse in basketball if that's what you decide to do, if you ever decide to go that route.
You have to deal with some bad calls. That's all it is.
Absolutely.
But let's get over to the Steel City headlines, brought to you by Fairway Chevrolet GMC. Whether you're in the market for a truck that's heavy duty, built for work, or a real head turner, Fairway Chevrolet GMC has you covered. With clear upfront pricing, unmatched inventory, and a team that works to earn your business, Fairway Chevrolet GMC is the place to go. Trucks, SUVs, great pricing, no nonsense. That's the fair way. Well, CB, we finally got some game action in the books. Steelers versus Jaguars. You had a unique vantage point, obviously, this being your 11th year in the booth, calling the game with Bob Papiani. Tell me, Steelers win 31-25. Good result. We got the W. But what were your main takeaways from the game? Who impressed you? Who are some guys that you want to see a little bit more from?
Yeah, I think starting out and what impressed me is the fact that it was penalty-free essentially for the Steelers on their side. They didn't beat themselves. I wanted to see if they were able to get in and out of the huddle, no pre-snap penalties, and all of those things materialized as the game went on. So I was excited to see that. Collectively as a group, we got to start at the quarterback position. Not much. You didn't know what to expect. Obviously, we thought we were going to see Will Howard. That did not happen because of the injury. But when you see where Mason's at, you saw where Skylar Thompson is at. Those guys, both of them collectively, 76% between the two. I know Mason was not 90%, but 76%, 4 touchdowns between those two. That is winning football. That's why they were able to get out of this game with a victory. So I'm excited about what those two brought to the table.
Yeah, especially Skylar and Mason. Like, not only is it Aaron's first year in this offense, it's those two first years in this offense too. And it was really impressive to see how much command they had in the huddle, throwing the football to some wide receivers that they're not familiar with. This is their first camp with these wide receivers too. So to see that type of connection this early in the first game was pretty impressive, especially from Skylar.
It was, and we didn't know how much we were going to see, but again, people who are familiar with Mason, but
Mhm.
I was reminding people that yes, he had a great run, and when he was here 2023, winning 3 games in a row, getting him to the playoffs. But again, as he enters back into Pittsburgh, it is a completely different system. So to see him running it from that manner, that was great. Skylar, on the other hand, didn't know how much playing time was going to be, but as the week went on, that was expedited, and he knew that he was going to play at least a half, and he was able to get that. And when you go out there and able to move the ball, put the team into the end zone, have a really good 2-minute drill, and once he threw that touchdown pass, you knew that I wanted to see that celebration, and that's exactly what he gave us. He can play. Skylar, is a rookie. He started games. He started a playoff game as a rookie. So he does have the experience, but it's limited experience. But anytime you have game time, especially as a backup, that is important because only one quarterback can play at a time. So I was happy that Skylar was able to take advantage of his opportunity, create the conversation heading into preseason game number 2 to say, I belong. He wants the next opportunity because, again, if we don't know if Aaron Rodgers is going to play in this game or not, if he does, guess what? That takes a couple series away from Skylar. So he just wants more of the opportunity. Not sure how it all plays out. Obviously, they drafted Will Howard in the 6th round, but he just looking for opportunity to show that he can play if needed on this particular roster.
Yeah, and you kind of hinted at it in our last week's episode about this wide receiver group. Everybody's vying to be that number 2 guy, but do we really need a number 2 guy? But one of the guys that you mentioned that I thought stepped up in a big way was Scotty Miller. He was really finding space in that zone, sitting down, giving the quarterbacks a nice big target to throw to, despite his smaller stature. And so you really hit that on the head. Him coming up in a big way this preseason game.
And he wants the opportunity. People forget about it. I mean, this guy played down there in Tampa. He caught the big touchdown pass in the playoff run from Tom Brady there. So he has the experience. And of course, I'm a little bit biased because he's a Mid-American Conference guy. He went to Bowling Green. That's my conference. So I got to talk about him anytime that I can. But in all seriousness, being around this guy, he just, has a calm demeanor about him because there's not much you can do when everybody's talking about a Roman Wilson, Calvin Austin as the number 2. All you have to do is put your head down and get to work. Scotty has been doing that, and he came up big. He had 4 catches in this particular game. Again, now he's just hoping for the opportunity to get more playing time because, again, we don't know what DK Metcalf's status looks like, and if that's the case, will Robert Woods continue to be on the other side? So, again, because you cut that one preseason game, there's not a lot of snaps out there, and you got to fight for what you hopefully can earn.
Exactly. And I'm always looking at these undrafted guys or unheralded guys. We talked about how this team reminds you a lot of the 2005 Steelers, which we had a guy like Nate Washington. And so is there anybody undrafted or otherwise that's going under the radar that reminds you of a Nate Washington who showed out in this game as well?
Yeah, not necessarily showing out. He didn't have a lot of catches in this particular manner, but Ben Skoranek, this is a guy that was on the roster last year, was a late addition, but yet he contributed in this special teams manner. And that's what's going to have to happen when you start talking about your 5th and 6th receiver. If they don't play special teams, they don't have a chance. So that's why I say, okay, Ben Skoranek, because of the year he had last year, had a really good year here, and now just kind of figuring out how he fits in this particular manner. That's going to be somebody I pay attention to.
Yeah, his dad has some Western PA roots as well as some Fort Wayne roots. I don't know if you knew that. We got some ballers in Fort Wayne. He's from Fort Wayne too, just like Rod Woodson. Good old Ben Skoranek. And he went to Northwestern. So I appreciate you mentioning my fellow Wildcats. Keyshawn Williams, another Indiana grad, a guy from Indiana who played football there, stepped up and scored a touchdown. I thought he looked pretty good too.
Yeah, he did. 5 catches on the day. And I think when you look back to see where he was at, he just kind of fighting, and you can see the blitz, and you can just see him in the stands. And I'm kind of chuckling because I'm like, he thinks he's getting his ball. You just got to sense another pep in your step when that happens. And sure enough, as soon as the ball was snapped, it was just a matter of could Skylar Thompson hold off just enough because of that free edge rusher that was upon him. He was able to hold the football, able to deliver it, even though he was able to take a shot. And you can see Thompson going up there, grabbing the ball. And it was a really good opportunity for him as he was navigating through this thing. So it was cool to see both of those two celebrating.
Right. And I mean, by and large, I thought the offense played really good.
So I said Thompson, I meant Williams. I apologize.
Yeah. By and large, I thought the offense played well. We put points on the board, 4 touchdowns and a field goal. But if there was any position group that I thought we could have done better at, it is the running back position. Caleb Johnson who's had a really good camp up to this point, I thought might have looked a little tentative out there. After going back and watching film, I was concerned because we didn't really, our yards per carry were a little low. And I thought maybe we didn't get enough push up front, but the O-line actually got pretty good push on some zone plays that I thought Caleb could have pressed the hole a little more. And like any rookie, there are some nerves that go into anything, and getting, just like quarterbacks need to get into rhythm with their wide receivers, running backs need to get in rhythm with their offensive line. And I think that's just going to take a few more games. I have faith in his ability, but that was a little bit of a disappointment, seeing that there was some hay to be made in the run game that we did not take advantage of.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that comes down to, and of course, this, obviously playing offensive line, they put a lot of 8-man boxes down there. So there's always going to be one extra defender. So he has to just learn to be patient a little bit. In college, you could just outrun people with speed. And up here, you have to set it up. And I thought there was opportunities for Johnson to set up the block before he bounced it out. Right. And I think that's going to come with patience. So I'm sure as they sit back this week, they're going to cut up those films and say, hey, this is what you kind of need to do. Just be a little bit more patient. And once you do, you'll be able to get those big runs that you're hoping for.
Yep. Tell them to watch some film of Le'Veon Bell, the most patient runner of all time.
And when you saw Le'Veon do that, you started seeing James Conner kind of take a little bit of patience from him. So again, it's just learning. And because it's the first game, that those type of things will come. But I think overall, when you look back, you mentioned running backs. For me, it was the punting group. And I'm not saying it in a negative light, because when you're creating on third down, they were 8 of 11, but there's not a lot of punt opportunities there. Right. And because it's such a tight battle between these two punters that are here, you want to see them flow, and that's just something that ultimately these guys are not, they didn't have that opportunity to be able to do so. And that's just something that will come. I know Cameron Johnson, he had 2 punts. His longest was 52, but Corliss Waitman, he had 1 punt, which was 57. Mm-hmm. So it's like, how do you weigh those two out? Because as great as they are, one is right hand, one is right footed, the other one's left footed. And that's pretty much the only difference between these two. So now they're going to have 2 preseason games to actually battle it out. And it's going to be a tough decision, because the loser of this, they won't be sitting on the street. They will be on somebody else's roster. Yeah. So that's how good these punters are.
Good problem for the Steelers to have, obviously. Another special teams happened during that game. I know you were a witness. We saw it from TV, but how crazy was that 70-yard field goal by the Jaguars kicker, Cam Little?
I mean, that was unbelievable. I'm sitting up there saying, strategy-wise, in some cases when you're putting a 2-minute drill together, you're like, hey, get to the 35. That's about a 52-yarder. And in some cases, hey, if you don't get there, 57 yards if you're at the 40-yard line. I'm like, okay, great. And when they did not complete the pass prior to, I'm like, they're going to take a knee.
Right.
And next thing you know, they jotted those guys out there. I'm like, they really about to attempt this. And the Steelers obviously felt strong enough of the leg that he must have had, because they didn't even put anybody deep. Just in case the field goal was short. So they must have knew something, obviously, more than I did. But just watching it, and you could just hear the thud that happened. I said, he got a hold of that one. And I'm looking, and I said, this thing isn't dying. Yeah. And it went in and with room to spare. And all I could say on the broadcast was, wow, we just witnessed history. And we're joking.
Game, man. I wish it counted. I wish they won't count it in the regular season annals, I guess, but it should. I mean, that should. That's you can see him.
He grabbed the football. He's holding that because that's on film. Right. Like, no, I actually hit that in a game. So regardless of what everybody else is, I know all the stats are wiped out in the preseason, but that's one that you can't forget, because that will ultimately help him continue on with his career. And it really will put fear into special team coaches, because now that is a viable weapon. Not just, when you think about 70-yard field goals or anything over 60, you always talk about being in Denver with the altitude. But in Jacksonville, that is a real opportunity for them. And that was beautiful to watch. And I'm proud of him for making that kick.
Yeah, their kicker is a weapon. We also have a weapon in our kicker, in Chris Boswell. Him and Cam, some contract disputes. But before we dive deep into that, let's go to this commercial break, and we'll get to it and more other Steel happenings after this.
The Big Play Sports Network is brought to you by Lake Spur Marketing, connecting your brand to the right customers. Visit lakespurmarketing.com today.
So, Charlie, the big news heading into the game last week that kind of came as a shock, I think, to Steeler Nation, was Cam Heyward, I guess, holding in now, as well as Chris Boswell. 2 guys that have been stalwarts for the Steelers for quite a long time at this point. Cam going into the age year 36. Chris Boswell, I think, is 31 years old, 32. What is the feeling around Cam? I don't think the fans quite understand the player's perspective. We want our guys to get their money. And this is a business at the end of the day. It's entertainment, but it is a business from our perspective. But I don't think the fans quite get the fact that I think the players are fully in support of Cam and Chris getting their bread.
Yeah, I'm like you, Trey. I'm all for players getting their money, and it's okay to ask. What's the worst that can happen? No,
Right.
That's what they say. But again, these are things that always happen. And when you get to this particular situation, it's tough because you have fans on both sides, right? But fans always lean toward the side of, well, you signed a contract, they should honor it. But in all fairness, teams don't honor their contracts whenever players sign that deal.
Exactly.
So it can't be on both sides. So it's just hard because in one sense, when you have that contract that is out exceeding from a dollar perspective, the physical ability that you're out there doing with your contract, the team can actually cut you. But yet, if you're outperforming the contract and ask for more money, people deem as you the bad guy. So it's just tough to have to deal with on that particular perspective. I understand where Cam's coming from, and I support him, and I understand it. I hope he gets his money.
Right. Well, I know fans are always worried about the salary cap, and nobody quite understands the math that goes into the salary cap, but we had enough room to bring in somebody that I thought the Steelers had their eye on. On Twitter last week, I mentioned that I thought the Steelers need to bring a veteran tackle, somebody that could come in and help mentor the young guys, because going into this season, protecting a 41-year-old quarterback, we have two tackles that have one start between them. And that's Trai on the right side. Broderick started at right tackle last year, obviously, but has no starts in the NFL on the left side. So we got two tackles that at their position have one start between them. So I thought it was pertinent on the Steelers' behalf. They brought in Andrus Peat, who had some really good years with the Saints. Is on the back half of his career, but still, I think somebody who could offer some insight and some key points to help the young guys out.
Yeah, and that's what you need. I mean, like you mentioned, alongside of that, when you have Mason McCormick, Zach Frazier, those young guys are young. Yeah, Essex he does have experience, Super Bowl experience as well. So these are things that ultimately, the experience, he actually won the Super Bowl. I don't want to discredit that because it's very tough to do. But ultimately, you're going to need that veteran presence up there, just being another voice. And hopefully he's able to provide that because, again, collectively as a whole, a lot of these guys are a young group.
Yeah. And I think maybe it's already had some, I know going into the game, the O-line was a big point of focus for the team, for us as fans. I know for me personally, I was really looking at O-line. And because of that, I decided I'm going to do a weekly report, CB.
Let's do it. I love it. I love it.
O-line, and it shall be called the Trench Report. Okay.
I love it. I
went back to my playing days, did my best impersonation of Russ Grimm, and it's some pretty basic grading. I give a plus if you get the job done. It may not look pretty, but if you get the job done, you get a plus. You get a double plus if what your job did resulted in a big play or a touchdown. You get a minus if you miss a block. You get a double minus if that missed block results in a penalty, a tackle for a loss, or a sack. Pretty simple, right? So
one other point, because people will ask about pancakes on run blocks. How is that evaluated?
It'll be a plus unless that pancake or run block results in a touchdown or a 20-yard gain.
Okay, cool.
So pretty simple, like big plays and touchdown get extra rewards, but otherwise you get the job done, you get a plus. So these are the grades from this past Saturday. I thought the first team line did a fantastic job. I thought Arthur Smith called a great game, a very O-line friendly game. I mentioned this on Twitter as well. It is there are certain plays for the O-line that are advantageous for them to start out a game. There's always some butterflies, but the one thing O-lines love to do is they like to be aggressive. You rather come off the ball to start the game versus pass setting back. And one thing that Arthur did, he started this game out with play action, some hardcore play action. Like he started with boot left to start and started with a counter play action for the second play, and then ran a run play for the third play, but ended up throwing the bubble screen because there were 7 in the box. So the first team O-line had 15 plays. And by and large, there was not a wrinkle in Mason's jersey. The pocket was clean. Broderick, who we had talked about extensively coming up into this game, did a fantastic job. You could critique some technique issues, but by and large, he did a really good job. Spencer Anderson, who came in and played for an injured Isaac, also did a really good job. His one play where he had a negative, I thought his technique could have been better on the outside zone play. He got pushed back and Caleb had to bounce and didn't get a gain. So he got one minus on that. Zach Frazier did a great job. No snap issues this week, which was very important. Mason did a really good job. That interior of that pocket was very solid. And Troy did a really good job as well on the right side. The only down was he had a penalty for hands to the face. So by and large, first team O-line came out, did their job, kept the pocket clean, got push in the run game the few times we did run the ball. And so they did a really good job. Did you see the same thing from the booth?
I did see the same thing. And the one question I was going to ask on Troy, even though he had that hands to the face, is there something that he could have did differently? Because obviously you know the position better than I do. Is there something that he could have did differently?
It's just hand placement. And it happens. He'll probably get another one at some point in his career. I think every O-lineman. And now it's a point of emphasis. You used to be able to do it and get away with it quite often. It was one of my go-to moves. And so, but they're watching for that kind of stuff now. And so it's just about hand placement. He has really good hands, really quick hands. And so when he punches somebody, that head is going to snap back. So it's going to be easy for the refs to see. So get his hands down. He'll be good to go.
Okay, cool. Because when I saw it, I originally, at first, as he touched the helmet, and then it was trying to replace us back inside. And by that time, they already called the penalty. But to your point, they used to allow the readjustment of the hands. And right now, that is a focus of emphasis right now.
Right. And but it didn't just stop with them. I thought the whole O-line as a collective graded out as 87. But the rest of the guys, we saw Matt Sharping at a 90%, did a great job at center once he came in to relieve Zach. One person I wanted to point out was Stephen Jones, who I've got a chance to watch at camp. He's number 79, so I was going to watch him a little bit more, just to see if he's repping the number right. And I thought he had a really, really good game at the right tackle spot. Andrus Peat, give him some time. He literally just got to Pittsburgh, I think, on Wednesday. Didn't quite know the playbook. You could tell he was a little hesitant out there, but he's a vet. He'll get it. So hopefully we see that number improve. But by and large, the group as a whole did really good. I was really proud to see them protect the quarterback. Skylar had a lot of time to throw the ball and go through his reads. So it wasn't just play action passes and naked boots. They did 5-step drops. I saw a lot of 74 and 75 protection. And so the backs also did a good job in the pass protection as well. So that is this week's trench report. We'll have it every week. And hopefully we'll have a pretty good understanding of who did well in the preseason by the end of all this.
The Big Play Sports Network is brought to you by Garage Beer. No bitterness, no frills, no IPA, just beer-flavored beer. Find local retailers who sell garage beer near you by visiting drinkgaragebeer.com.
All right, now the train keeps rolling. Preseason week 2. Got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers up in Acrisure. I can't quite get Acrisure out my Heinz Field. The Bucs are coming up to play, and something unique, they are coming up to practice as well. You said they got one day of practice, joint practice. That's Thursday?
Yeah, it's going to be Thursday, actually held at the stadium. So they're not coming up to St. Vincent's in the manner like when Detroit did that a few years ago, probably about 10 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, at this particular point. So, yes, they'll be in the stadium. So everybody's excited about that.
So I really can't remember having any joint practices when I played, but I think maybe one year we did. But from a quarterback perspective, I can imagine from an O-line perspective, blocking somebody else differently from your team is a good change up and very advantageous. But from a quarterback perspective, do you get some good work out of joint practices?
Yeah, you do. And then for me, I experienced it when I was in Detroit. We actually practiced against the Carolina Panthers. at that time, but this was the late 90s, obviously a little bit before you, Trey, you know, if you get to this point. Not to age myself over here, but it didn't happen here in Pittsburgh. Didn't happen here in Pittsburgh when I was here. But you do get an opportunity with just talking to the players, and they get excited about it because now you're actually going against different players. You don't know their snap count, you know, don't know their signals in the same manner that you would when you're practicing against each other for so long. So it's really good to get that work in, and especially if guys who aren't playing in the game, that they're able to get that work against other competition, just to get a sense of what week one is going to feel like.
Right. And I think even more so, I think guys would tend to be a little bit more physical in practice than they are in the games. You know, you see a lot of the fisticuffs that happen with these joint practices sometimes because of guys getting after it. But I think from an O-line perspective, this is very crucial this week to get some good work during that joint practice. They got a guy in Vita, their D tackle, who's one of the best in the league. So I know Mason and Zach and Spencer or Isaac, if he's back healthy, are going to get some good work. And then they got Hassan Reddick, who can rush from both sides. So hopefully he can give Broderick and Troy some good looks over there. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I think from a defensive standpoint, they got a plethora of receivers on the Buccaneers side of the ball that Baker Mayfield is willing to deal into. So I think defense has their work cut out this week as well.
They do. And this is the point of camp, you know, and every coach does it around the league. If you're having joint practices, you just kind of alert it. You're saying, hey, I don't need, you know, the inside information as it relates to game planning or any inside information. All I want to know is kind of what your thought process is. How can we help on the other side, you know, by creating different opportunities for you, whether that's blitzing a little bit more. Maybe you need to work on site adjustments and hots, you know, so these conversations go on, and you get that throughout the course of practice. It's not going to happen that much in preseason, because when you get to the games, because you're trying to get in out of there, making sure that you're healthy and those type of things there. So there will be some conversations that take place, and both sides will be able to benefit from this. You don't want to come in here and just be as vanilla, because you're like, man, we could have just did that and went to a 7-on-7 camp. If that was the case, hey, we need to get better. And to your point of being chippy, a lot of these young guys who are on the roster, man, they're trying to show, hey, I do have a little fight in me. Right. And that's why some of these practices get a little heated in that particular perspective. Coaches don't necessarily like it, but those players are fighting for their jobs, and you have to be respectful of that process as well.
Yeah, exactly. And their quarterback in Baker Mayfield, who's very familiar to us in Pittsburgh, has found a home down in Tampa. I don't know about you. I've always liked Baker. I thought he went into a tough situation in Cleveland, made them into a competitive team, gave them an edge. I've always liked the way he carried himself. And I think his teammates endears himself to his teammates as well. And so it's kind of cool to see what he's doing down in Tampa. He's had 2 really good years, led them to playoffs. But from what do you see? Do you think he's found his home? He's going to make some hay down there in Tampa?
Yeah, he found his home. And I'm like you, I never thought he should have left Cleveland to begin with. But again, when you have a fan base who's trying to learn how to win, they become very impatient. And that's why they moved on. And you talk about him winning a playoff game in Pittsburgh, for that matter. You're like, man, that's a big deal. But obviously they didn't feel that way. He goes down to Tampa, and then he has to follow the GOAT, Tom Brady. That is a very tough task to have.
People don't mention that enough.
Yeah, and people would go in there and actually put a Pro Bowl season together, and having those guys on the cusp of, you know, for competing and going deep into the playoff. That's special. And I'm happy for Baker that he was able to find a home. And literally what you're seeing from the moment he got into the league is what you're seeing right now. But there's a lot more confidence with it because of the experience that he brings, and those guys are all following him. So it's great to see.
What are some position battles that still need to hash himself out? I know we just played one preseason game. The O-line still has a ways to go. Running back group still has a ways to go. Those are the 2 position groups that I'm looking at. But are there any other position groups that need to solidify themselves more? It was cool, I did want to mention this, to see Cole Holcomb come back and play the way he did last week.
Yeah, and I was going to go that direction, to see him after the grueling injury that he had in 2023, missing that time, getting back out there to change the direction. It looks like he is where he was prior to the injury. So that was good to see. And hopefully he makes some leeway into that inside linebacker group, and bringing that veteran presence to Peyton Wilson. But for me, I'm looking to see which secondary defender. We need 1, 2 to really step up more than others, right? We know who our top 3 is with Slay, Ramsey, Joey Porter Jr., and Benny Bishop is securing that 4th slot. But again, you need that 5th, that 6th, secondary defender that they're going to keep in that position to step up. But ultimately, those guys have to play special teams as well. So that's going to be an area there that I think that is going to continue to be scrutinized to see who could create separation. And if they don't, the closer you get to that cut date, and they'll be scouring waiver wires to see if there's somebody on another roster that actually can provide that depth here in Pittsburgh.
Do you think we'll see the starters this week? Is week 2 what week 3 used to be when we had 4 preseason games? The dress rehearsal, as they used to call it. Do you think Tomlin is finally going to let Aaron out the house?
Yeah, I think this is going to be the dress rehearsal. Obviously, things can change the closer that we get to the game. But everything that Aaron is talking about here, he wants to play, just like he did last week. He really wanted to get in there, but Coach Tomlin said, no, that's not going to happen this week. So what does that look like moving forward? So I think those conversations will continue to play itself out as the week goes on. But ultimately, who's healthy? Will Aaron have DK if he's playing? So again, a lot of these conversations are all going to play itself. And I think right now it's just a little bit too early, only because we're a ways away from that first preseason game happening. But selfishly, especially with me calling the game with Bob Pompiani, I want to play. Hey, I want to talk about these starters. I want these guys to be in there to get a feel for what this group truly looks like.
Right. Looking forward to this. I think they got a lot to prove in the second preseason that they're coming out looking so good. Hope to see that it's not just a fluke. And that they can come back offensively, especially, and put up the same type of performance. But we'll be back with more from around the league. We got some other quarterback competitions to look at, but we'll be back with the snap count. All right, just like every training camp since the beginning of time, there's a quarterback competition in Cleveland. And just about a few other places in the NFL, but probably the biggest story in the NFL right now is Mr. Shedeur Sanders up in Cleveland. What is your take on his performance versus the Carolina Panthers last week? And what do you think is the ideal situation, just without the information that you've gathered up to this point, for them to go into the season at the quarterback position depth-wise?
Yeah, I'm not surprised by what he did. And the reason being, you're seeing vanilla defenses in the preseason. He was going to go out there and put together what he was doing in practice. Unfortunately, we don't know the exact reps that he was getting. But when people are surprised in the games, like, oh, he's doing all of this, we're anointing him. It's like, no, what you were doing was setting him up, because if he didn't play well, we'd have been talking about the lack of production, and that's why he fell in the draft. But then when he does what he does, then the next question is, well, he didn't do it against the starters. Well,
right.
Which one is it?
Exactly.
He wanted to see if the guy can play. He went out there, threw two touchdowns. He looked comfortable after that first series, that he put together. But then ultimately, as the game went on in that second quarter, this guy was on fire. I was excited watching it.
Yeah, it was fun to watch. And I think he put some things to rest as far as some of his doubters about if he's going to feel comfortable out there. That's the thing that impressed me the most, was just how calm he looked in the pocket. He threw some dimes. That touchdown he threw in the back of the end zone between two defenders was probably one of the better throws I've seen by a rookie quarterback in the preseason in their first start. And so that was good to see. What do you think the depth will be going into the season? I see Flacco starting, and I think Shedeur has a legit chance now to be the backup. And I think that is probably the most ideal situation for him.
Yeah, bearing injury at this particular point, Joe Flacco should be the starter heading into week 1, but Shedeur is setting himself up, to be that backup. And for me, it kind of reminds me of my rookie year. And I only say that because in the first preseason game, had a really good game. And then that next week started getting those backup reps. Right. Went into the season as a backup in Detroit. And by week 3, I was actually starting as a starter as a rookie. So I could see the similar path going on. It's just a lot to do with how Joe Flacco plays in the early part of the season before the fans start clamoring and shouting his name throughout the course of the game for him to play.
Is Kenny the odd man out? Do we see him being traded probably before the season?
Well, I think ultimately right now for him, we don't know how long that injury is going to occur. One sense it was a couple of days, then there was a report that he'll be out a couple of weeks. But again, when you miss time in training camp, especially early on, that provides the opportunity for the young guys to show what they're capable of doing. And unfortunately, that timing of the injury could hurt him as it relates to him being the odd man out. But again, that's a couple weeks away as we're having this discussion. We don't know how it is, because maybe he comes in the last preseason game, may not be 100%, but goes in, lights it up, puts a couple scoring drives together, and then that can ensure his spot on the roster. So there's a lot of moving pieces and questions that are going to happen before we get to that final cut day.
Another quarterback competition with the team that's on our schedule, another AFC opponent in Indianapolis. They have second-year starter in Anthony Richardson, and then they got now journeyman with his third team in the last year, I guess, in Daniel Jones. I don't know if you had a chance to see, but Anthony Richardson got hurt on a play that we used to call 63 scat, 63 scat. They brought the blitz strong side. They brought the middle linebacker up. He was hot off one, and Anthony Richardson was looking the other way and got hurt. That's been the biggest knock on him up to this point, his preparation, his accuracy where his eyes need to be. Are those some of the issues that you've seen from him as well? And can he rectify them? Are his problems fixable?
I think they're fixable, but it's the lack of time, the practice time that he's out there, because he was injured last year, missed some time now. And then, what does that look like for him? So when you miss a hot, that is essentially day one type of hot, that's something that you start to be concerned about. But again, that is something that, throughout the course of the off season, you have that false sense of hope. And that false sense of hope is you're not getting hit, from the time that the last game is all the way up to the first preseason game. You don't get hit. So in your mind, you may have time to deliver the football down the field. And when we would watch film, I would always just make a sound effect like that hit hurts. That hit hurts, man. You better get rid of the ball. And this is an example of how something like that occurs, because when you don't get hit, you miss the blitz. Guess what? It's different when you hit the preseason. And sure enough, unfortunately for him, he got hit on a hot, and that's tough.
That is tough. And the last one I want to get to before we get to our FanDuel bets for the week. The battle up in New York in the Meadowlands. We got Russell Wilson, Jameis, famous Winston, and then Jackson Dart. How do you see that shaking out? Jackson Dart seemed to have a pretty impressive start to his preseason and this last week's game, but Russell seems he was entrenched as the starter from day one. Do you think Jackson Dart has a chance to supplant Russell as the starter?
Outside of injury, no. I don't see that happening on week one. Right now, because of those reps that are divvied up, of course, you have, Russ and Jameis, which both of those two can play. And I'm big fans of both of those two. But anytime you have a rookie, it's very tough to sit back and say, hey, you can now supplant the two veteran guys if they don't entrench you as a day one starter. And because that did not happen, I just can't see him being really just leaping over those two to ultimately be a week one starter. Not to say it's not going to happen through the year, but we're talking about week one in this particular example.
All right, 5 rookie quarterbacks. Which one has the best year? Cam Ward in Tennessee. We didn't get a chance to talk to him, but Jackson Dart, Tyler Schauf for the Saints, Jalen Milroe up in Seattle, and Shedeur Sanders in Cleveland. Who do you think has the best year?
Yeah, Cam Ward, because he's a day one starter at this particular point. Everybody else was going to need an injury to occur for them to step onto that field. But because Cam has been entrenched as a day one starter, he's getting all of those reps. I'm expecting him to have the biggest season. Don't necessarily mean that it's going to be the best season.
Right.
I just think his numbers are going to be there because of the attempts that he has throwing the football. So that's where I'm going with mine.
All right. Well, I got some more predictions I'm going to ask you to make from our partners at FanDuel, but that's after this next commercial break. Big Play Bets are brought to you by FanDuel. On August 26th, it's FanDuel Football Futures Day, a new holiday for football fans. It's 24 hours of deals on all your football season predictions. So take a flyer on the MVP race, crown your champion in August, or parlay your division winner dark horses. Charlie, I'm going to ask you who your MVP is this season. So mark your calendars. This is your day for your hunches, your hot takes, your calls, and your odds. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your future bets now, because futures days only last one day. FanDuel, play your game. Disclaimer, must be 21 plus and present in the select states. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit FanDuel.com/RG. All right, week one is coming up. Fast, quick, and in a hurry, CB. Let's make some predictions on our season.
Let's
and
do
our
it.
fellow division winners. All right. FanDuel is slightly disrespecting us a little bit at 8.5. What's your over/under? Do the Steelers get over 8.5 wins?
I do. I think over in this particular case. I think they get as high as 11.
Okay, me too. All right, they got Cleveland at over/under 4.5.
Ooh. I think they go over. I think they win 6 this year.
Oh man, don't tell the big play folks. Our big play brother's gonna think you too nice to him, man. What about Cincinnati at 7.5?
I think they go under. To be honest with you, I think they fall a little bit. That's just my early guess.
Okay, I'm with that. I think Cincinnati goes over. I think they barely get over at 8. And they have Baltimore at 9.5.
I'm going over. I think they do. They can get to 10, maybe 11. I think it's going to be a two-headed race, and it's going to be Steelers-Ravens at that particular point.
All right, cool. We got some single-player stats also. We have Aaron Rodgers at 22.5 touchdowns, over or under.
I'm going over.
Yeah,
I think he reaches 25 this year.
He got over 30 last year, right? For the Jets. I mean, obviously he had Garrett Wilson and company, but DK over 6.5 touchdowns.
I'm going over. I think those do connect. They really do.
Also, DK Metcalf at 925.5 receiving yards for the year.
I'm going over. I think he has a monster year because I think the way that Arthur Smith offense is going at this particular point, if he's dialing into those 3 tight end sets, that means he's going to be single one-on-one on the outside. And DK is going to have a lot of opportunity.
I love it. We also have, these are getting into the long shot categories right here. We have, will the Steelers score a touchdown in every regular season game this year?
That's 17 chances.
You know what gives me pause? I would say yes if we didn't have to play Baltimore twice. Baltimore very oftentimes is a field goal, slug them out fest, 13-9 or 17-12, and so those 2 games would give me pause. So if I had to say, I would not take that bet.
Yeah, I'm going under only because I think that we're going to have a Boswell game where he hits 5 or 6 field goals,
right?
And that's ultimately going to be the difference in the game. So I'm going under with that.
All right, can TJ Watt replicate his best season ever and get 20+ sacks?
I think he gets close. I don't know if he hits 20, but I could see him getting 18 and 19 this year. But I don't think he hits over 20.
Last one. Can Caleb Johnson get Rookie of the Year? Is it possible that he has a big enough year? That traditionally goes to a quarterback or a wide receiver, especially these last few years, because the wide receivers that come out being ridiculous. And
are we talking Rookie of the Year for the league, or you're talking to Joe Green Rookie of the Year for the team?
That's a different question.
That's what I was saying. Which one are we talking about?
Unfortunately, FanDuel don't got that on they.
All right, we're going national. We're going big time. I don't think, unless there's an injury that occurs to Jaylen Warren, that's the only way that I don't see him. I can see him potentially being Rookie of the Year, but if he has to split the time between Jaylen, I just don't see that he has the numbers that are going to be high enough that is able to equivalent that to the Rookie of the Year.
Okay, and I got one more set of parlays. We have the division winners for the AFC. These are my picks right now. I have the Buffalo Bills winning the East. I have us winning the North, the Chiefs winning the West, and the Texans winning the South. That's a parlay right there. I think it pays you pretty handsomely if you just put $10 on. But what say you? Do you agree with that? Or would you
agree with everything but the AFC West. I think the Chargers shocked the Chiefs here by winning the division.
The Chargers, okay. You heard it here first. And now on the NFC side, I have what do we have? The Rams, I think, topple San Fran to win the West. The Bucks win the South, the team we're playing this week. The Lions go back-to-back and win the North again. And then the Commanders surprise the Eagles and take the East.
See, I would go on the East. I'm talking Philly. but I don't. Yeah, I would take Philly there, and I think the only other difference that I have with you on the NFC West would be San Fran over the Rams.
Okay. So we go 50-50 in the West. Okay. I think you'll make some hay going with my parlay. Put a little money on that one. I think you're going to be all right.
Or you could make some money with my parlay. Either way, you're a winner in our eyes.
All right now. We'll be back with the rest of the snap count. All right, CB, as we come to the end of episode 3, Steelers play the Bucs. Who do you think needs to have a big game this weekend?
I'm looking at, I want to see two people. One on offense is going to be Kenneth Gainwell. I want to see if he can override and be able to now create separation into that third running back group. So I'm going to pay attention to him on the offensive side. The other side, I don't know what these pass rushers are going to look like. We don't know if we're going to see TJ Watt. We may see Nick Herbig at this particular point, but I think just having that first preseason game under his belt, I think Jack Sawyer at home has a huge game and eventually is being talked about as that rotational pass rusher coming out of this game.
Yeah, I agree with you on all fronts. I'm looking at Caleb Johnson in the running back group to see how he bounces back after having a probably less than a subpar type of game this past weekend. He needs to mesh well with his offensive line if he's going to be a legit contributor in that running back group. And again, looking up front, I want to see if Broderick Jones can bring back-to-back good performances, because that is what is going to hinge the success of our offensive line on, is how well he does. And he needs to be able to string good performances back-to-back.
I agree with you on that. And I think the third one, as we go back, I want to see, and obviously, this may not fare well with the offense, but I want to see the punters get more opportunities right now, because there was only 3 punts last week, which is really good. But when you're talking about a position battle, you want to see at least, 3-4 punts between those two that they can turn around and do it. And if that happens, guess what? That means the offense is not moving the football. So it's that double-edged sword at that particular point.
Yeah, I agree. And fans, we want to hear from you. Reach out to us on X, on the Snap Count Show. Let us know who you want to see a big performance from this weekend against Tampa. But that's it, CB. Here we go.
Here we go.